Good morning, Kingsley community. It's Monday morning. Pastor Colleen Weirman from the Kingsley United Methodist Church coming to you with a daily devotion for Monday, May 24th, 2021. And we are starting our new devotional, Prevail by Susie Larson. 365 Days of Enduring Strength from God's Word. Pretty appropriate. And then I was trying to find the... I can't remember the name of the devotional author. I have flowers here, by the way. That's what's hanging there. That's okay. There it is again. I couldn't find one, so I've got this one, Live in Grace, Walk in Love by Bob Goff. So that will be our next one. Again, I don't read all these devotionals. Just go out and buy them for yourself. So I just read a few parts of it, and then we move on to another one. So we're going to start with day one, because why not, in Susie Larson's Prevail. And the title is Build an Altar. And the scripture reading is Genesis 12, verse 7. So I would go ahead and read all of Genesis 12 today, if you have time. Then the Lord appeared to Abram and said, I will give this land to your descendants. And Abram built an altar there and dedicated it to the Lord, who had appeared to him. So, Susie writes, quote, we have to let go of the old to lay hold of the new. That's for sure. We have to leave what's comfortable if we want to experience God as our provider, our defender, and our waymaker. God called Abram away from everything he knew to a land God had not yet revealed. But God's promise to Abram far outweighed his need to know every detail about the journey ahead. It's the same for you and me. We are pilgrims traveling to a most holy city, and God's promise over us far outweighs our need to control every twist and turn. We're on a need-to-know basis, and when we need to know, God will let us know. But this we do know. The land ahead is a good land, and our good God will ensure we make it to our new home safely. Will you pause today and build an altar of remembrance? Before you take another step, remember his faithfulness, remember his goodness, and it'll strengthen you for the road ahead. So she suggests you read Genesis 12, 1 through 9, but why don't you just read all of 12? And she writes, as pilgrims, we're always on our way to a next place of promise. So God promised Abram, who then became Abraham, and Sarai, who became Sarah, and you remember Abraham and Isaac and all of that. Abraham, he made the covenant with the Israelite people, with God's people. And he said, you will be a father of a great nation. And so that was promised way, way, way into the future. But in order to fulfill that promise, Abraham, or Abram, before he changed his name to Abraham, had to move away from his family and his security and what he had built to a new land, brand new land, that he had never traveled to, and where I'm sure there were many enemies of God's people. So she writes, as pilgrims, we're always on our way to our next place of promise. God promises that it will be good. He has a good path for us to follow. So she says, take some time today and build an altar. Make note of this sacred place where you now stand. So write in a journal or get a devotional book that you can write along the side. And remember the place where you're at right now. Now, the place you are at might not be a comfortable place. You might be in the midst of a new illness. You might be in the midst of, like me, I have no idea what that is on my eye. So going to the doctor for my regular exam, and I'm going to ask her, what's that on my eye? So you might be in a place of uncertainty. You might be in a place of comfort and contentment. Things might be going great for you. Things might be going terrible for you. But know that God promises good in our lives. He doesn't promise to do evil to us. He promises good. Now, evil comes because we're in a broken world, but God's promises never stop. This promise he made with Abraham and God's people lasts a lifetime, because God does not go back on his promises. So she says, make a special note of the sacred place where you are now, where you stand now. God is in this place. So he's in this place with you during pain, suffering, illness, uncertainty about the future. And he's also with you when things are great and good and you're joy-filled. How would you describe the holy ground beneath your feet? What treasure will you take with you to your next place? So write down where you are right now and let God know that you're either scared or you are unsure, but that you're going to hold on to the promises of God, that God has good plans for you, not to do you harm or to bring evil in your life, but to do good things for you. And He's got a good path for you. And even though you might be going through times of trials and tribulations, as Jesus said we would, He says, don't lose hope, don't lose faith, because Jesus has overcome the world. So we know that Jesus is large and in charge of all things. Even He has authority over Satan and evil. So, but again, evil's allowed to kind of roam free on this broken earth we have right now. But God doesn't want anyone to perish, His word says. So He's relying on His church to speak up and be the church. So that might be you speaking up in the midst of suffering, how you're feeling God helping you, carrying you, leading you. Those are the things people need to hear. Because it's easy to say when things are joyful, hey, God's good all the time. But when things aren't good, God is still good all the time. So she says in her prayer that you, Lord, are here with me. I pause today to remember your presence in my life. And she thanks the Lord for that. So again, read Genesis 12, 1 through 9, or the whole chapter 12. And you'll see that Abraham, who is the father of a great nation of the Israelites, the Jewish people, the chosen people of God, God made a covenant with him that he would be a father of many nations. And he was, because he was the father of Jacob, who we know Jacob was called Israel, and Jacob was the father of all the 12 tribes of Israel, God's people. And this was the beginning of that covenant. So take a look at where you are now and know that even if God asks you to do something hard or uncomfortable or something outside your comfort zone, which God has a tendency to do because that's how He grows our faith, know that God will go with you and God will go before you, but He's also got your back too. So that was a good one. Build an altar. That's day 1. Okay. We'll see what the rest of this book has in store for us. Prevail by Susie Larson. And then we're going to move on to, we'll probably do this Susie Larson one for a couple months, and then we'll move on to Live in Grace, Walk in Love by Bob Goff. Don't know much about it, but looks like it'll be good. God uses our failures to disarm our pride. That's 1. Quit thinking the battle for your heart will be a fair fight. Satan doesn't play fair. Hope is better than anything uncertainty puts in front of us. These are just some of the titles in this book of these devotions. No one's going to believe any of our answers if we don't let them know we have questions too. So don't think you're perfect. Most of us don't think we're perfect. I've met a few Christians who really do think they're perfect. Ha 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 ha. That's funny because we know we're moving on to perfection, as John Wesley said. John Wesley thought you could gain perfection in this lifetime, and then on his deathbed he said, I was wrong. I'm moving on to perfection. So we're here to learn. What we don't learn here on this life, in this life, we will learn on the new earth. So if you can't forgive, you'll be in Forgiveness Class 101 in heaven. Because we never stop learning. Because we're finite creatures. We're not God. We're not going to know everything. We will see from a God's eye perspective, but we will continue to learn. So that's it for me today. Enjoy the day. It's supposed to get warm again. Yeah, it's kind of weird weather. Warm for a couple days, cold, warm. But we'll take it. It is still spring. So until then, enjoy your day. Bye-bye.